Welcome to the Intersection Magazine podcast. This week we are in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, a very lovely looking location for the Breakthrough Attorneys. And our guest is Kheri Mbiro, a senior partner at Breakthrough Attorneys. I found his contact browsing the internet. I also found an event that he had hosted with his team, and there was a lot of excitement around his leadership and some of the work that they've done. And we're interested in talking about regulation, as well as, of course, the general area of the law regarding innovation, ecosystem, startups. We're interested in exploring the idea about how, two startups, for example, that have a similar idea can merge, for example, or maybe one startup that is a little bigger than the other can think about in terms of an acquisition. So those general ideas, I think, is what we're going to be discussing today. So we hope you guys enjoy this this brief interview. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about Breakthrough Attorneys.
Thank you, Nicholas. Breakthrough Attorneys is a full-service law firm.
Okay.
It is focusing on the areas of corporate commercial, in the sense that we assist businesses, investments, on matters of corporate regulation, governance, corporate commercial deals, transactions, and tax combined together. So we are about 8 years old. We have branches in Dodoma and Zanzibar as well.
Okay.
We have about 6 full-scale departments, each headed and supervised by independent partners. Yeah.
Okay. Arbitration, taxation, and project management?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about, I suppose one of the reasons why I was interested in talking to you was finding out a little bit more what regulation looks like for maybe in an area like maybe cryptocurrencies, general, what do the laws look like for startups, blockchain? Yeah.
Thank you. So, in a manner of speaking, like I said, as Breakthrough Attorneys, we are really active in terms of the corporate commercial department in the innovation and startup space in Tanzania. I would simply say that perhaps we are the leading law firm, if not among the leading law firms. We are working with multiple players in the ecosystem. We work with about 5 incubators. We work with the UN in terms of startups and innovation. We are sitting as members in Silicon Zanzibar. We are the ones setting the Funguo space in Tanzania. Yes, also assisting Ifakara Innovation Hub. We work with the Tanzania Startup Association, so we're very active in that space. With regards to the regulation, in general, it's safe to say mostly the startup ecosystem is not regulated in Tanzania. And the approach has always been a very cautious approach by the government to regulate the area. And in a manner of speaking, few and different spaces and pockets of fields in the startup ecosystem have started being regulated. I would say the fintech sector has leapt forward as the pioneer in terms of the BOT recently releasing the regulatory sandbox for fintechs.
Yes.
With regards to the crypto, it remains at large and regulated, and the government is still insisting. Recently just gave again a statement with regards to how unregulated the crypto space is, and actually reiterating its stance that people that are partaking in that space are doing so at their own peril, and the government will not necessarily be accountable or necessarily protect them. Yeah, but again, I would say we are seeing more efforts with the government to venture into other areas. I would say the data protection regime, which coincides with a lot of the technology and the innovation space. Most startups depend on data. Data is their goal. default. So now with the regulation on the data protection and privacy, we are seeing now more and more that attitude. But also the Capital Markets and Security Authority, which is a regulator on the side of securities and capital markets, is also now venturing forward. We have seen recently they actually circulated their draft guidelines for crowdfunding. So you see that is a massive step for startups, especially when it comes to funding. Recently again, the BOT, it gave its FinScope, state of finance in the country and funding, and you see some of the segments relate with startups. It shows availability of funding for startups, where, how, challenges, etc. And the good thing about it is that the FinScope report by the BOT, Bank of Tanzania, correlates and reflects the similar finding by the Tanzania Startups Association report with regards to these matters. Yeah.
Okay. What about the law regarding, for example, say a company like Otani wants to come in and operate in Tanzania, or like maybe a company from Uganda wants to come in to operate in the fintech space in Tanzania? What's the procedure?
Okay, the law is really friendly with regards to a company that wants to come in. So the choices between the company and how it actually wants to be regulated. It can register as a new company in Tanzania, but it can also register as a branch. The only thing is the exposure of the HQ company in Tanzania if it registers as a subsidiary regarding to other compliance issues such as tax as well as regulatory licenses, because when you register a company, it means, and as a branch, it means the affairs, information, and people behind the company and the HQ and the source country will also be subjected to review and vetting here in the country. So those are the considerations that a person can wanting to register a company here would do. But again, the space is open. You can see many companies that are coming from outside registering here, startups. You see Flutterwave, AirPay from India. Yes, they're startups and they are scaling up to this jurisdiction. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I recently heard that I don't know how true this is, but there's a university from India that wants to come in and open a space in Zanzibar, or collaborate at least with Zanzibar, that they requested space for operation, and they're thinking about coming to Zanzibar. Is this true? Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I have. Like I said, we have a branch in Zanzibar, and we are very active in Zanzibar, I would say. Sitting in Silicon, let me start afresh. With regards to that information, it relates and is born out of the Silicon Zanzibar initiative. I'm not sure if you know about that. So, Silicon Zanzibar initiative is an initiative to create or to establish Zanzibar as a major technological hub in Africa, whereby technocrats, tech investors can actually freely move to and go through Zanzibar in terms of their businesses. As we are speaking, there are more than 150 tech companies that want to migrate to Zanzibar under that initiative. So the information that you've had is, of course, true, that there's a university that is interested to actually be a part of the Silicon Zanzibar initiative by actually being nurtured and lodge itself within the Fumba space and create a workforce source for all these companies and the Tanzania community in general for technology. Yeah, and I believe when time is right, the public will know which university this is, but it's a very old and renowned university.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the work you've done in this space. I guess we talked about some of the laws regarding mergers and acquisitions. What about exits?
Yeah, so now that is one of the biggest challenges that we have. Number one, in terms of mergers and acquisitions, one of the biggest outcry that we have in the innovation space is with regards to the low threshold of reporting notification of mergers and acquisitions. It's around 3.5 billion T-shillings. And in startup space, this is a small amount of money.
Okay.
Two startups merging can definitely reach on that, can reach on that threshold, and it defeats the entire purpose of what a fair competition merger is. It's all about disrupting the competition, but can startups really disrupt the competition? Startups are startups, and further, our national small and medium enterprises policy states that SMEs are those companies that have capital up to 10 billion Tanzanian shillings.
Okay.
So if an SME and a startup is lower than an SME, how can they disrupt competition? So these two policies and the law, they're colliding. Okay. Ideally, we've been calling for for notification threshold of mergers to be pushed higher to something like 20 billion or something. Kenya is almost 20 billion Tanzanian shillings. The idea here is create a space for startups to actually merge so that they can, without much undue reliance or need to comply with unnecessary regulations. What we're trying to also say here is that when you subject startups to a lot of regulatory and compliance, you suffocate them from growth. And when you find out, that in this era of startup and ecosystem, the key element of growth includes synergies and spillovers. And more regulations that we are seeing currently discourages synergies and and spillovers to be used, because at the end of the day, spillovers will result into restrictive agreements, etc., which are key things in antitrust and competition laws. Synergies, that's merger and acquisitions. So startups will deal more at arm's length, which actually will discourage innovation in the long run. So that's one thing that we are saying. But secondly, is the question with regards to market exit. Market exit also discourage inflow of capital in the country, because at the end of the day, most investors and VC is discouraged from coming into the country because going out is difficult when they sell or when the business doesn't make sense at some point. So it takes a long time to exit the market because of, again, compliance issues with regards to winding up companies. And in a manner of speaking, most companies will take about minimum 8 months, but most companies to wind down will take up to 2 to 3 years. And key among this is tax. Tax has been the biggest issue, the biggest hurdle and obstacle when it comes to winding up companies. The company is dead, but the taxman still wants his tax. Who is to pay? So our regime needs to understand, especially in the startup space, that when a company is dead, it's dead. So to actually facilitate it, the speed of exiting the market is one key factor as well for investors to come in the country. It's not only about the early investment stage or the operation stage, but also the market exit stage. It's important for it to be,
In terms of Zanzibar, what makes it? When I was doing my research, for example, the first thing that came to my mind is, of course, this idea of digital nomads. I see Zanzibar as a very attractive place.
Yes.
Beauty-wise, the beaches and whatever, the history and all that kind of information. But Do you have, is there something that makes Zanzibar attractive in terms of taxation? Is there, is there a plus for me as a company if I say I'm going to establish my headquarters in Zanzibar? Is there tax breaks? Is it those kinds of things?
Yeah. First of all, tax is a union matter in general. However, Zanzibar has a sub-mandate to create certain conducive areas, because some taxes are more municipal rather than national. So Zanzibar can also create those conducive environment for investors that are coming there. But what I can say is, under the Silicon Zanzibar initiative, there are calls that we have made for purpose of tax review to support the Silicon Zanzibar initiative, and then to subsequently bolster the investment environment for tech companies, because Silicon Zanzibar is specifically for tech, and we are calling for that. Now, with regards to tax breaks, etc., reliefs, there will be many. I cannot speak of them right now because it's under consideration, but there will be many, and what we're trying to create is similar, it's not necessarily a tax haven, but rather a tax reliefs that are key to first invite capital, but also to assist the company to be incubated companies under the initiative to grow fast without unnecessary over complying. Yes. Yeah.
Felix from Kotandipe, do you have a few questions or maybe some comments regarding what you do yourselves?
Not really, and I think we have learned a lot today on the state of regulation in Tanzania. In my field, which is blockchain fintech, we are venture backed, and we are now live in 4 countries, looking to open up in Rwanda and in Tanzania, and hopefully work together with Breakthrough. We are seeing positive developments in South Africa in regards to crypto regulation and blockchain regulation. They launched recently an opening for such entities to register themselves for a virtual asset service provider license, which is the same kind of license we see in Singapore and Dubai and some of these jurisdictions. Botswana was the first country actually to launch this virtual asset service provider license. In the case of Kenya, they have gone on to regulate crypto assets, which means that now to some extent crypto assets are recognized by law. It's under something called the finance bill, although it's controversial in the sense that it's taxing 3% on transfers. So the community at least is seeking clarity, because tax should be at least capital gains kind of tax. But that's also a positive development. I've seen Uganda sort of like taking a similar step and wanting to tax similar percentage as Kenya is currently doing. So I'm sure that with Tanzania we'll see this growth very soon, and this was a very, very informative session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mbiro. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the work you do at Breakthrough Attorneys, and for sparing your moments to talk with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you.